All right, and welcome everybody. For those of you that are currently in the course on social media marketing and the age of video, I am super excited to include this bonus interview where we are having a great conversation with the one and only DJ Soucy, someone that I have been blessed to be a coach with for the last, almost 5 years now, 4.5 at least. And during that time, really, we've seen that first almost 4 years of your business went from zero to just shy of 30 million. And it has a lot to do with the content that people are watching during this course, looking at social media, looking at video, and how that's enhanced your business. So for anybody else that may not know a little bit about you, DJ, go ahead and introduce you, kind of what you were doing prior to your real estate business and what your experience was with social media and video prior to this industry.
Absolutely. I moved to St. Pete in mid 2017, had never been in real estate, never been to the area, didn't know anybody. So why not get into real estate? And got my license in November of 2017. And that's when we met, basically December 2017. And I think the only social media I was on was Facebook. And I was barely on that. I wasn't a social media person. I actually was just telling somebody today, I was kind of thinking about the evolution of my business when I started. And I was laughing because I remembered my first for sale signs wouldn't even have my picture on it. Like I wanted to be a secret agent or something.
Right.
The truth of the matter was I was super uncomfortable, which I think so many people are.
Right. And so, prior to real estate, prior to moving to St. Pete, what was your background? I mean, did you have a film and marketing degree? I mean, what did it look like prior to real estate?
No, not at all. The majority of my working career was in hospitality, restaurants, mainly. Then the last 7 years before I got into real estate, I worked for Citigroup Corporate and Investment Banking. Not quite the industry that values your individualism and your sparkling personality.
Right. And so, coming out here and I know, your personal experience. So fast forward, what do you think has had some of the biggest influence in terms of fast tracking your business? I mean, again, we're in the 4th year of your business, and you've gone from being an individual agent to you now have a team that includes other agents on the team, administrative support. And so, what kind of got you there into having that success? What some would say is very quickly.
I don't think it's attributed to any one thing specifically. I mean, one thing that you did teach me was about layering. I guess the common thread through all the things I did in my layering was putting myself out there, whether that meant my face on my signs, that's a good start, and as well as, being physically in the marketplace, doing open houses all the time, putting my signs out, people seeing me, being active in the community. And on top of that, also getting on social media. Like you've taught me this, at the end of the day, I am first chiefly in the relationship business. Housing and real estate don't even come into the equation, right? Until someone feels like they've had the opportunity to get to know me a little bit, see if there's that, at least a modicum of trust and comfort. So I think things really kind of started cracking open when I finally got over myself and started putting myself out there on social media, because at the end of the day, I think there's no better way to show yourself, your authentic self, other than social media. And I don't mean like 24/7, like, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth now, but just a glimpse into who you are, what's important to you. It's like, if you're not, I tell this to my team all the time. If you're not being yourself, your people will never find you, and social media is a great vehicle for that.
So, this course is something that real estate agents, small business owners, maybe people who are thinking about influencers, or just curious about how social media and video can be a benefit, especially when you are in a business and you have a product or service to sell. So, as you had mentioned, kind of jumping into social media, allowing it to be a habit and really a skill set. For most people, the idea of pausing to take a picture or pausing to get video of something, I'm already having to do my job. I'm already having to do all of these other things. Where am I fitting the time in? How does this become a new priority for the business?
Well, it really doesn't take that long. The biggest challenge for me was just remembering to do it, right? Because like I'm going through the motions of the day and trying to stay 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of everything else that's about to come up, while putting out brush fires for other people. But at the end of the day, that's the reality of it, and how you handle that and how you service your clients. That's what people want to see. That's the part of you they want to get to know. So I literally had to start setting reminders in my phone to get like alerts, like, hey, if you haven't posted anything, you got to remember to do this.
So this course specifically, we kind of do an in-depth dive of understanding the different platforms, who the demographic is that uses those platforms primarily, and how you can use that to tell your story. So, it is going to be basically a focus of LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And we do also mention, even though it's not necessarily social media, kind of those that Google My Business and some of those other platforms. What are the ones that you think that you've had the most success with? And how are you telling your story differently on, say, Facebook versus Instagram?
So again, like you just touched on, you want to know, you need to find out who is following you, the demographics. There was a lot in there to unpack. I think at the moment, this is an evolution. Like, I think I'm finding the most success and interaction with Instagram at the moment. As my business coach, everything that's going on with me. So I have a really big focus, and I've had for like the past year, and we're stepping it up again another notch now, with more content, more valuable content, right? For YouTube specifically, because that's where long content's going to live in perpetuity. But there are pieces of that I can plug and play on Instagram, and not just Instagram post. There's the stories, like those snippets are perfect to get people to pique their curiosity and get them to watch the longer form. When I first joined, I thought it was Facebook and all about Facebook. I'm sure some people have, a lot of success with that. I haven't necessarily. I will say the most successful thing that came out of me posting and starting to do video was on Facebook. And I don't know if you remember, you were always giving me, I was going to say giving me a hard time, but trying to support me to get on camera more. Because I would do an open house and I would get my phone and it was all taking the video of the house and just me talking. And you're like, people need to know who they're talking to. Like, they already know what you look like. Just put your face on. So anyways, I was trying to do an open house video, and 7 different things happened every time. I either tripped over my words, a Harley went by and cut off, the sound, a bee flew in my ear, like every time. And I was like so frustrated. And then I couldn't help it. So I just started laughing. I posted that on Facebook. I was like, hey, anybody want to see my bloopers? And literally for 2 years in a row, it was the most reacted to and commented thing I had ever posted. That in and of itself helped me get over myself, and just like, it dawned on me, it was like real proof that I don't need to be perfect. And most people don't even want to see that. People want to get to know you. So Facebook was great for that vehicle. But the one area that I haven't jumped into, which I know a lot of agents are, is TikTok. I'll get there. I'm a slow learner, but
and we talk about this. You and I have had conversations about this, and even in the course, we talk specifically about TikTok. And because of the fact that it is not geographic specific, what we are typically seeing with small businesses or with real estate agents is as we start to expand and people within our industry find value in the content that we're doing, that's usually where something like TikTok is great, right? Agents that are looking out other agents to seeing what they're doing, or a local caterer who's looking at other ways that caterers are kind of filming the spreads and the events that they're doing to get exposure. We're seeing that as the use of TikTok, maybe a little bit more than getting directly in front of consumers, where, as you've talked about, and you've talked a bit on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, I think another aspect of this that people need to be considerate of is there are two parts of social media. So there's the client retention part, the people who already know you, like you, and trust you, or they do business with you, or they would do business with you when they have the opportunity to buy your product or service. And then there's client acquisition, people who don't know you, they don't know your brand, that are finding value. Where are you seeing maybe more, or where are you putting interest in the future? Again, you had mentioned YouTube. How is the way that you're approaching long form video on YouTube different than those snippet segments that you're putting on Instagram or Facebook?
Well, at the end of the day, the purpose of this is to not only to let people get to know me and who they're potentially going to get to work with, but it is to show my value, to show my knowledge and my market expertise. And so I think the longer content items that I'm doing that live in YouTube are demonstrating that. I can still take pieces of that to capture, because at the end of the day, if I'm just putting out long form content, I'm probably not going to capture that much. And that's like, as you know, I just worked with someone recently to shoot a lot of content all at one time, because it's just more efficient that way. And, it dawned on me, and, give credit where credit is due, watching some other agents who do it exceptionally well, is to capture that attention up front. So when I'm making longer content video, I make sure I start kind of like with that hook or that to show the value, and then come on in, let me tell you more. So I'm not sure if that's answering.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think it's good for people to understand that you are tailoring, maybe the message is the same, but the method is a little bit different because you're approaching different people and they're seeing different things. I think one of the biggest things, or maybe a misconception for some people, is that I'm going to post on YouTube, but more than likely, my friends and family aren't going to actively seek me out on YouTube. So I have to take that content and I have to deliver it in a consumable way to the people that are on Instagram and that are on Facebook, if that's the platforms you're using.
To your point, like YouTube, that's a perfect example. Is it's the number 2 search engine after Google. So if I'm just putting out like oh, here's a listing video of this house, blah blah blah. Yeah, some people will look at it and whatnot. But more importantly, what are people going to YouTube for? Like, realizing what the platforms are used for, just like LinkedIn. Nobody's going to LinkedIn to look at spring break pictures.
Right.
It's like, doesn't live there. So for YouTube, it's like, how do I show my value there? How do I have valuable content there? Think about it. Most people go to YouTube. Think about the last time you used it. How to, what is the best? What is the top 5? What better way to show your knowledge and your market expertise than delivering that? And delivering it, and I just need to say this too, like yes, other agents do this. You taught me this early on, even just about farming. So what if other agents do it? Nobody can be you. That was a huge thing for me to get over. Even if the information is similar, whatever, you're delivering it. You're the market expert. That's what's achieved by doing it that way.
And we're definitely going to unpack and spend some time talking about video and how you've evolved in video and how you see video being a part of your business, say in the next 3 to 5 years. But I'm sure some other people are going to be curious of how else are you using social media besides just video? I mean, are you doing anything else with it? Are you finding it as a way to engage with customers? I mean, what's your social media strategy besides video? And then we'll definitely get into that.
Sure. I mean, just the instant messaging or DMing is a huge, like, think about it. Most people don't care to pick up the phone, especially if it's just a short, hey, thinking of you, checking in. Being able to do that, and that, again, that's with people that I already know, like, and trust. But I noticed as I started putting on more informational, somebody coined or used the phrase the other day, edutaining, for educational and entertaining. Yeah, I had to really think about that. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, I just lost my thought on that, but delivering that, you know, that information is getting those who don't know me to interact. You know, investors, I work with a number, like 3 or 4 fantastic investors who do beautiful work. Other investors have reached out to me and, you know, hey, can you help me find homes and projects like that, so on and so forth. Just so many different ways, like first-time home buyers, you know, people looking to downsize, people looking to relocate. It's really helped me present myself out there to all those different groups and show my value and get us to interact.
So are you like, are you sponsoring, like, are you putting money behind a lot of these? Is this an organic outreach to your people as well as people you don't know? I mean, how are you using that element, or are you not?
I mean, it's a balance, right? I mean, there's some things, some content that I put out that is just with my phone and it's just me. Like, you know, you've seen a bunch of times, I really, really like to cook. I have a restaurant background. So there's certain dishes that I make that I just like do quick stories on and show that. There's just drawing a blank now.
Well, I think and what you're actually getting at is another thing that's discussed in this course is the principle of thirds, right? So doing that 1/3 of, you are a local influencer, you know what's happening in the area, you are in the know, whether it's an industry or community thought leader. That 1/3 of business, right? We have the doors and our open sign up and ready to let people know what we're doing. And then that 1/3 of who you are, that's authentically you, the things that people can tether to, whether it's the restaurants, or in your case, right? You are a huge avid fan when it comes to dogs and the adoption process for rescuing animals. So, you know,
that's a great example.
We use the principle of thirds.
That's a great example, because I started the partnership I have with PetPal, and, you know, when a client, you know, closes on the sale or purchase of a home, if they're ready to adopt, they go through the adoption process and they're approved. We pay for the adoption fees. If they're not ready, we still donate that same amount of money in their name to PetPal. I did that because I love dogs pretty much more than people, but it was very near and dear to my heart, and that, putting that out there, helped my tribe find me. I mean, I didn't do it with the intention of making money, but putting my time and effort and energy and money into something that I really cared about brought other like-minded people. So in the first year, I think I picked up 3 pieces of business from that. You know, with the first one, the woman sent me a picture of her little Chihuahua that said, "Hi, my name's Cletus, and my mom wants you to list our home since I'm a PetPal alum." Like, I mean, I ended up last year donating a little bit over 11,400. I made that up on one of the deals that I got.
Right.
So, you know, it really helped, again, show who I am. So, like you were talking about, the principle of thirds of, you know, 1/3 professional, 1/3 personal, and another third inspirational, if I'm remembering that correctly. And, you know, that's worked out to be a really good balance, because I think it showcases all sides of you.
And so, you know, I do think, and you're absolutely right, this is where often we see with business that are starting out, or agents that are starting out, every single post is just listed, just sold, under contract, open house, it's a stupid meme or a GIF that has to do with real estate or the industry that they're in. And I think what you are doing extremely well, and that I think anybody who's been watching this interview thus far, is it's really about you showcasing who you are authentically, how your business is in alignment with that, and then attracting people who that want to do exactly in that space comparatively to, kind of looking at some of those other goals or things that can happen. So,
and to your question about, putting money behind it, like in terms of running ads, like I do that every once in a while on Facebook with some things that I have going on, whether they're events or whatnot. But I'd say pretty much the only money that I'm really putting into it now, and it's not all of it, right? There's the ones I just mentioned, like the stories, the personal, the quick, like through my day, this is, a day in the life of the realtor. But then, some of the other projects I'm doing, not just listings, but I do have a certain budget set aside to do a higher production value video kind of series that, again, it pays off in spades, but that's really the only place I think I'm spending money on it. Very little is on like paid ads.
Well, and that's a perfect segue into
being strategic about it, right? So one of the video series I did last year, as you know, was I live in historic Kenwood. It's my farm. And so many people would say to me like, oh, so tell me about historic Kenwood. And I would, and they're like, oh, well, you're biased. You live there. Oh, you're trying to sell it. You're in real estate. So I was like, okay, what better way to get around this? I had an event at my house one night, invited, 20 different people or couples. And I have a great backyard. It was set up like kind of happy hour theme. I had a taco truck, a bartender, just to like create a relaxed atmosphere, a happy hour atmosphere. And you don't even have to go that far out. I'm always over the top, but and just had people come in, and it was, the series was called What's So Great About Kenwood. And I asked people who'd only been in the neighborhood for less than a year up to like 20 years, and just sat down and kind of interview style, asking them like, what brought you to Kenwood? What do you love about it? What would you miss if you moved? And strategically, the last question would be, can you name one or two local small businesses that you love and love to support, and why? Okay, and the reason I did that is, instead of taking out paid ads, now these people I'm interviewing are already going to be sharing this on their social media, but now on top of it, they're shouting out to other local small businesses, which, yes, I'm also a nice guy and I like to support small business, but it's also strategic because now they're getting a shout out, they're tagged in it. So people who are following their business are getting to see it. So I feel like I find that more effective than paid ads in a lot of ways, especially because, in real estate, we're restricted to how we can advertise. Something like this, it's an interview. It's not real estate related.
Right. No, and I love that. So talking in that segmented video, they're already taking this course. They see the value. They understand that social media is important. Video is important. But there is that question of, as you kind of mentioned, there's a lot of hurdles. Sometimes I don't like what I sound like. I don't like what I look like. I, thought I was going to be thinner by the time that I was on camera, or, I don't really have a whole lot of money to set aside a large marketing budget. What would you say to a person who's starting out in video versus where you are and where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like, insensitive to anyone's budget. Like when I started, I didn't have a budget. I didn't have money for it. So it was all like this way, and that did evolve to just from doing my own personal, like get to know me stories and posts and whatnot, to listing videos, progress to, showing your value. And I mean, somebody else, I don't know if you're, if I should mention her name or not, but I love her to death. She does a phenomenal job, is Leah. Leah Herzworm does such a phenomenal job of on the daily, and this doesn't cost her anything, on her Instagram stories, and she heavily focuses on Instagram, going through the day, just a day in the life of a realtor. And it's very real, and it doesn't cost her a thing except, maybe remembering to, get on there, and maybe an extra coffee to keep her energy up, because I don't know how she does it. It doesn't have to cost you anything. But once you start seeing the results and you start having money come in, I do think it's super important to earmark some of that money and set aside a budget if you want to. It's lead gen, right? It's like you're going to spend money one way or the other performing lead gen.
Are you? Because you and I, we just had this conversation during your coaching call this week, right? Which is a lot of agents and business owners, their businesses are, they're anemic. I mean, they're being underfed any kind of money into marketing, lead generation, that idea of future business. And it was like, sure, I think some people might look at you and go, you're spending significantly more than others, yet we are right in alignment in terms of budget and profitability. So speak to, yes, you've never been one that we've ever had to encourage to spend more money, yet how have you been able to use that mindset, like hold a return on investment, right? It's one thing to spend thousands of dollars, and that's another mistake we see with a lot of people that get involved in video. They buy the professional equipment, they spend thousands of dollars on things that they don't know either how to use.
Or even worse, they spend their time editing. Like that's a huge thing. Like I do spend money on this and I'm not editing it. I'm not going through all that crap because I'm not the professional. That's like, a flipper, like, oh, I'm going to list it myself. Okay, good luck. Like you're not going to net as much. Same kind of principle. It's just same thing with hiring a transaction coordinator. What is the best use of my time? Like hiring a transaction coordinator and going out and getting more business,
right?
Obviously. And it's the same thing, like for me, and it's nothing against people who, agents who make cold calls, FSBO, if there's even many FSBOs anymore, or expireds for that matter. A monkey could sell something right now, but the fact that I can go in and carve out 8 hours with a videographer and have somebody do the editing and have content now for just one piece of content, not talking about my daily stuff, but the longer form stuff that shows my services and my professionalism, my expertise and market knowledge, that's going to go on social media in perpetuity. At some point, you have to stop making cold calls, right? You have to go to the bathroom, you have to go home and eat, you have to sleep. My lead gen doesn't sleep. If you can't sleep, you can go on and look at my lead gen happen. That's amazing to me.
And I do think that it's important for people to understand. So as mentioned, last year, just shy of 30 million. How many for sale by owner calls have you made in your career?
One. And I got it.
Yeah. How many expired calls have you made in your career? I
mean, probably like less than 5.
Right. And you moved to an area where you didn't know anybody. And so, for many people who might think, I have to be from an area, or, we know it happens all the time. We start comparing ourselves to people who've been in the industry either for 400 years or they grew up in the area. What are you finding that with video, it's allowing you to tell a story and to kind of jump ahead quite a few spots to be the authority for people, even though you've not been there forever, or you haven't always been the king of Kenwood? What is video doing for you in that space?
Perception's everything, right? One of the lessons I learned early on, to your point, no, I'm not a cold caller. I don't make phone calls. When I very first got into real estate, you're like, okay, that's great. So if you want to like stay in this business, what are you going to do for lead gen?
Right.
And you tricked me into committing to 2 open houses a week, every week for a year. So thank you for that, but it was exhausting. But anyways, the point of this was I did 2 open houses a week, every week for a year. And I clearly remember this. It was like the end of the year. It was January. We roll in after the new year. And I was just like, I'm exhausted. I did it. I'm not doing those. And a couple of weeks went by. So let me back up. Like every week when I was doing them, I was out door knocking. So it was a video just like, hey, I'm out door knocking, or a post of my flyer. And then of course, a video in front of the house or inside the house to talk about it and where I was going to be, invite people. So now fast forward, I've done that for a year. And the first couple of weeks of January, I took off and like, I was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm tired. And 2 different people on social media sent me a DM basically saying the same thing, like, hey, are you still in real estate? And I was like, yeah, why? Somebody, can I help you? And they were just like, well, and they never commented or reacted at all to anything I posted. I had no idea they were even really following me. And they were just like, oh, well, I usually see, where you're going to be and what open house. I get to see a house down there and blah, blah. And I'm like the light bulb just went off. Like even you told me at one point when I was like first getting in and I was posting about open houses, I didn't have listings. It wasn't my listing, but I'm holding it open. And I'm like, shouldn't I be saying something that this isn't my listing? And you're like, no, you're doing the open house. It is listed, and it literally gave that perception to so many people who are following me that I didn't even realize, because they don't comment or like. They're like, who cares if they think it's my listing or not? They're like, wow, this is a hardworking guy. This is a guy who's plugged into the local market. This is a guy who has to have market knowledge, because look at, he's always in, every kind of house out there in this area. So perception is huge, and that really helped propel and the evolution of everything I did on social media.
Well, and I think, to your point, this is something that we did discuss at length, which was, okay, if you're not going to dedicate 2, 3, 4 hours a day to cold calling or being on the phone, how do you take those 2, 3, 4 hours and apply it to something you will do, right? So the person is like, I'm more of a people person, an in-person kind of individual. Well, if you're not on the phone and if you're not in front of people, what are you doing? You're not really doing anything. And you, of course, kind of looking at this, you've used Facebook, you've used Instagram, you've used video, and other things that we have worked on to really establish yourself within a geographic farm area and amongst building, a really great sphere of like-minded individuals from the different circles that you run in. And so that is the question of, the future of video for you and for the DJ Soucy group. What is that like? Where are you seeing this year? What are some projects you're excited about this year? And, where do you see the production 3 years from now?
So that's a lot, because there's a lot going on up here all the time. Where we're at and where we're going, like I mentioned last year, we had I did it on 2 different days where I shot the What's Up with Kenwood kind of like interview video series. We also had vendors. I think we called the series something like, what do you do? Like something like that. So just having like a lender or a home inspector come on, again, another good way to capitalize on having things grow organically. They're a small business. They're going to put it out. The people who follow them are going to see it, and it keeps growing from there. And always made sure to have a hook as the last question, like, home inspector, what's the weirdest thing you found under the house, stuff like that. So we would put that on a story, be like, hey, they'd see that, and then, follow the rest for the rest of the video here, blah, blah, blah. So that was successful. And now this year we're working on a lot of like expert videos. YouTube is a huge thing for me because I think it's super underutilized, but it has to be, just like any social media platform, it has to be utilized in the way it is built and intended to be used. So based on that, we're doing some videos of, the top 5 most dog-friendly businesses, dog-friendly beaches. We're going to be doing, since I do have a geographic farm, we're going to be doing a small business focus where we go in, if it's a certain restaurant that's known for a signature cocktail or a certain dish, to go in and be like, hey, here we are today, blah, 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 with so-and-so, and they're going to be making this for us, which is their number one thing. Is it real estate related? Well, yeah, it kind of is, because it's making me, again, the neighborhood expert. It's educating and the people who are, new to the area or thinking about moving here. There's the expert videos, which are going to be, that's the ones I just shot. There was some of them like gap addendums, like that wasn't even a thing until the last year and a half, at the most. And, just explaining what's a gap addendum, what with the process of, home inspection, just all different things like that. It's super important, besides being the market area expert. I think it's important too to realize, like, your audience is going to be vast, right? There's going to be people who are super experienced home buyers. There's going to be people who are first-time home buyers. So making a variety of content for everybody, I think, is super important.
Well, what I'm hearing you say, and I think it's something that it immediately clicked in my brain, is, I mean, your video approach is like owning a television network, right? Like if I'm watching the Food Channel, I don't necessarily like every single program on the Food Channel, but I love Iron Chef and I loved Chopped. I don't particularly care when, Pioneer Woman or something
That's
else,
exactly the one I was thinking.
and it's nothing against Pioneer Woman. I think she's lovely, but I'm not necessarily drawn to those recipes and those things, but there's probably someone who is. And so if my video content was, my Monday market report, I'm no longer a network of diversified content that can bring in an audience to fall in love with multifacets. I'm literally just one show. You either like the show or you don't. And I think that's really bulletproofing your business, to have a lot of adoring fans that go, yeah, you know what? When I see him and he's in front of a listing, I don't really care for those videos because I love my house. I'm not really going to go anywhere. But I love when he does those neighborhood snapshots, or I love when, seeing the day in the life, because I've always been fascinated in what an agent does. I think is really great for people to look at it that way.
I think the biggest overarching thing for myself and everybody included to remember, though, is this is called social media, right? So it's great if I'm putting out content, and it's even better if people are reacting, and even better if they're commenting. But if you're not engaging with people, it's just a waste of time. Like, in my opinion, on social media, it's like if somebody's commenting on stuff, that's like seeing them in person and they're like, oh, wow, that was really cool. I like that. And I'm like,
bye.
Like, that's so, like, it's incredibly rude, and it's just like, I really try to make it a habit to interact or react, and whether it's immediately on that post or by sending a DM, like, obviously I'm going to feel out what it's in relation to and whatnot. But I think that is so incredibly important, and it's the whole point of it. This is lead gen. You want to interact with them, and I'll be honest, I wasn't perfect with that at first. There were times I was just like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. And right. It would be like going through and making all those cold calls, and you actually get someone who answers, who's like, oh yeah, I'm DJ, I'm with blah, blah, blah brokerage. They're like, oh, hey, how are you today? And I'm like, hang up.
Right.
Like, oh my God, I have someone who actually wants to interact with me. Like, that's the point, everybody. And I'm
it's twofold. I think you hit another part of this is, you could be putting out video for a while and not hear anything from anyone. It doesn't mean that they're not watching. And some of your biggest fans don't go in and hit the like button or the love button, or they don't comment on every video or send you a direct message.
What's exactly just like that? What's exactly like that is, and because I remember when I started doing this, when I first got into real estate, was postcards. It's the same principle, right? And I know agents who are just like, oh, I sent a postcard out and I didn't hear anything back. Oh, great. Well, you sent one.
Right.
It's like, I still do it consistently, send them out to my farm. And I can't tell you, there was like 2 months in a row where it's like, I had like 2 listing appointments come, then I actually got the listings. There was a buyer and a seller like the following month, but then there could be months where I don't hear. But the fact is, months later, I go to a listing appointment and we sit down at the table with them, and literally there's my postcard on, like, by the notes and whatnot that they're going to take as they speak with me. So it's kind of the same thing. I don't know. They're not reacting. They're not like texting me like, hey, got your postcard. It's beautiful. Sometimes people do, but they're usually people who know me.
Right.
But you don't know, like, even if it's just for a split second. So, yeah, you can put a lot of stuff out, and it can feel frustrating if you look at it that way.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm not getting reactions. They must think it's stupid. And I still do that. Sometimes I have to remind myself it's about the consistency of doing it and being in front of people that pays off. And as long as you interact with them and do the social part of the social.
I think that that's great. And there's so much that people can take from this and implement. I think last kind of two things that would love to discuss again is just hitting on, where video is future for you and always changing. And this kind of ties into you're getting inspiration. Not all of this is just staying in your head. You're constantly looking for content. What's the answer to the person that is like, I'm not a super creative person. I don't have great ideas. I mean, what sources, how are you going in and kind of ripping off and duplicating, or you're looking, I'm assuming both in your industry and what other people are doing in other industries to kind of figure out, what on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, I mean, how much are you consuming so that you can turn around and become a creator?
We both know that you have a very good idea of the answer to this, since I'm an early riser, so I'm usually up 4:30, 5:30, and every day I am looking and watching to see what other people do. Like you said, even in other industries, like one of the videos, we're meeting tomorrow, the team and I, to do a brainstorming for a meet the team videos, right? Because if you think about it, like when people had websites, that some people still do, there's the tab like about us or meet the team, and like there's a little photo and a little bio, and it's like, we're in the age of video. Nothing is good.
Wait a minute. You're a $30 million team and you don't have a website?
No. And I made the mistake in my first year. I was paying like 175 or 200 bucks a month for this like super nice blah, blah, blah website, and they're managing it, blah, 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 blah. Never did I have any return on that. It was wasted money. Nobody went to it. It's like, if people, like I said before, it's a relationship business, and people want to work with somebody that they feel like they can get to know a little bit. And that's not going to happen on the website. So that's why, to my point, like, instead of just having a picture of like myself or somebody on my team and, oh, this is what I do and this is what I've done before. It's like, no, have a video. It's about being authentic. That's what people want. And they want the opportunity to get to know you. And then they'll give you the opportunity to get to know them.
And now I cut you off to talk about that, but you and the team are meeting tomorrow, brainstorming about a meet the team video. And, you and I kind of talked about some inspiration for the format for that. So what was that?
I mean, there's a bunch of different ideas, and I can't wait tomorrow to do it. I actually just started working with a company in the past couple of weeks that does production, and it's not as expensive as you think it would sound. I'm a huge fan of collaboration. I mean, it's something our relationship is based on hugely. Like, I don't think there's much, except maybe my wardrobe, oh, maybe not, that I don't bounce off of you. That was coincidence. This company that I'm working with, they're part of the brainstorming session too, because I want it to be outside the box. I want it to be different. That said, I got my idea from watching other people in our industry and out, and what they do and how they do it. And I don't care if somebody watches me and turns around and does the same thing, because at the end of the day, they're never going to be me. I'm never going to be them. Right. You're still going to be your authentic self, but the content, the content ideas, even the delivery, like I do strive, like I do want to be different, and I do want to stand out a bit in how I deliver that. But I'm not the true professional. You and I have had the conversation too. It's like, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Just like you spoke about the Food Network, there's another little network called HGTV, but they have the recipe of what keeps eyeballs and keeps interest and keeps people coming back. Then go for it. I work with an amazing investor. My brokerage Compass has an amazing program called Concierge that literally interest fee, zero cost to the seller. If you have a signed listing agreement and they need, $20,000 to prep their home for sale, they get that loan, because at the end of the day, we know we're going to get more for the house. So, going in and, showing photos of that, talking about that. I just lost my place where I was going with that. I went down a rabbit
Well,
hole.
there's so much of that, and I think,
Oh, the before and after.
yeah,
Like that, the before and after story, that's another huge part of it, whether it's my story telling somebody like what happened, why did I get into real estate? I had a horrible experience, and it is my mission that nobody ever feel like that or go through that. Whether they work with me or anybody on my team, to telling the story of, my clients and how we were able to help them, and, that happy ending, to how we were able to protect our clients with this certain thing, or, it's about that storytelling. The recipe's already written. You're not reinventing the wheel.
and so, that I think is huge. As you've mentioned, kind of going into the community, highlighting these small businesses, whether it's a local restaurant, we can look at the Travel Channel, we can look at the Food Network. How do they highlight, what are they doing to highlight some of those? How are they filming? What's the millimeter lens that seems to work well? What lighting are they using to make those things work well? When you're inside houses, referencing HGTV or some of the other things, or even as we talked about with Meet the Team. I mean, you and I were joking about this, not really joking, because there's some real truth in it, but to be referencing like, Real Housewives and the format that they do in an interview process, it's aesthetically pleasing. Like what bits and pieces can we pull from all of this to make a unique package that is authentically you, is super exciting. And so that is, kind of leading into the last bit before your final thoughts. Future of video as something you are doubling down on in your business. Is it bigger? I mean, we've been in helicopters, we've been doing some pretty crazy things. I mean, what does it look like 3 years from now?
It's probably going to expand into more, geographic areas. I mean, at the end of the day, it is going to be really based on what people are looking for, need, and want to bring that value. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to watch stuff unless it brings some kind of value. And I mean, immediately as I'm saying that, I think of, because you just said the Housewives, Real Housewives. I've never watched that. Whatever. If you love it, great. I think it's trash. If I want to hear a bunch of women argue, I can go home and see my parents. Just kidding. Love you, Mom. Not really. But you know what I'm saying? It's like even that provides a value to some people who just like want an escape or this or that. It's going to be ever evolving to tell our story and how we can help and tell the story of the people we care about and what we value. And yeah, I mean, that's really where we're going with it. I mean, I could get into like specific, like this little video series idea, this one or that one, right. But at the end of the day, whatever you do, whatever we do, it's got to be authentic, real, and tell the story of us.
Right.
Like I said at the beginning, your people aren't going to find you, whether it's your tribe, your clients, if you're not showing who you are.
Right. So final words, whether it's around social media, it's around video, whether someone's starting or this is something that's becoming a priority, just final thoughts on the topic, bits of advice that you wish you had.
Well, the word scalable comes into mind. So, whether you're called, there's only one of you, and you can only meet and talk with so many people at one time. Video blows that door wide open, and on multiple levels. You're in control of what you put out there. I know one of my concerns when I first got in was like, oh, I already put myself out there so much. You're the one who's in control of that. Nobody, for the record, I've yet to meet anybody who's ever told me they like how they look and sound on video. So that was the biggest part for me, was like getting over myself and just doing it. And the only way I think anybody gets good at it is by doing it, and doing it repetitively and consistently. I really don't think there's a wrong way to start doing it. Even trust me, there are a ton of like video clips in my phone of stuff that I've never put out. Like, so what? Like, set your phone up on a tripod and just try it. And if you don't want to post it, don't post it. But at least get in the habit of doing it and trying to get a little bit more comfortable. And even if you don't, get over yourself, because how you're seeing yourself and hearing yourself is not how other people see yourself.
Right.
Period. And then, just the scalable part of it, looking forward, the evolution is all that content, as I said earlier, lives on in perpetuity, and it's going to be constantly lead genning for me when I want to step back. Perfect case in point, the other day when I just shot 3 months of content, that's off my plate now.
Right.
And that lead gen is going to be released as time goes on. So now I'm focused on doing the other layers in my business, to be in the community, to be meeting people, have appointments, and because that's where the money's really coming in.
Exactly. Well, DJ, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here to talk about this. I appreciate you, and you and I, we have definitely gone through so much of this, and so anybody that's watching this, of course, will make sure that information reaching out to thank DJ for his time, we'll make that available. And more importantly, as you're going through this course, it is about applying these things, right? The last thing that I would want, or even DJ spending the last hour with me, is that you heard him talk about his business and not apply it at all to what you're doing. So take notes, go back and watch this again. That's why we wanted it to be on demand, so that you can pause, go back, look at some of those things, and make sure that you're coming away with something that you can apply immediately in the next week or within the first month after watching this. Thank you all so much. Thank you, DJ, and we'll see you soon.